Geloof.
My parents didn't invite me to Christmas because my sister told them I found them boring. I never really fit into my family. It wasn't about being a black sheep, more like an afterthought. My parents, Linda and Robert, made it clear that I never quite measured up to their expectations. No wife, no kids, just a solid career and a comfortable life at 31. But that didn't count for much in their eyes. My younger sister, Jessica, on the other hand, their golden child. She played the perfect daughter role flawlessly, married, always keeping up appearances, and somehow always getting exactly what she wanted. I wasn't surprised when my mother called me a week before Christmas. I could tell by her tone something was off, but I didn't expect the words that came next. She casually mentioned that they decided not to invite me this year. No emotion, no hesitation. Just a simple, we think it's for the best. Supposedly, Jessica had reminded them that I once said Christmas with them was a waste of time. That never happened, but it didn't matter. Jessica said it, so it must be true. I could have fought it, could have asked why they never thought to confirm it with me. But I knew better. I wasn't about to beg for a seat at a table where I was barely tolerated. I just let my mother finish her excuse, muttered something noncommittal, and hung up. They had made their choice, and that was that. The next day, my phone buzzed. Jessica. I hesitated before answering, but curiosity got the better of me. No mention of Christmas, no awkwardness, just straight to the point. She needed money. Her husband's job wasn't enough to cover her grad school tuition, and our parents just couldn't afford to help right now. But I could. That's what she said, like it was the most natural thing in the world. As if she hadn't just convinced our parents to cut me out of the holidays. As if I was some ATM she could turn to when things got inconvenient. I let her talk, listing out the reasons why I should say yes. I owed it to family. I was doing well. It wasn't that much money, but all I could think about was how effortless it was for them to push me aside when it suited them, until they needed something. Then suddenly, I was family again. Instead of giving her an answer, I told her I had an idea. Let's have a family get-together, I said, my voice even. I'd pay for a nice dinner, and we'd all sit down, face to face. If family matters so much, we should all talk. She hesitated, sensing something was off, but in the end, she agreed. She had no reason to say no. After all, she needed the money. I ended the call and sat back, staring at my phone. They thought they could treat me like an outsider when it was convenient, but this time, they were going to see the truth laid out right in front of them. I arrived at my parents' house dressed in the most unremarkable way possible. An old sweater, jeans that had seen better days, and my worn-out Converse. No need to impress anyone. I wasn't here to play nice. I was here to lay everything out on the table. The tension hit me the second I stepped inside. Jessica was slouched on the couch, tapping away at her phone, pretending I didn't exist. Her husband, Ryan, sat next to her, looking like he'd rather be anywhere else. He wasn't the type to get involved in family drama, but now he had no choice. My mother, Linda, was in the kitchen, making coffee and arranging a plate of cookies like this was some kind of cheerful gathering. My father, Robert, sat in his recliner, arms crossed, already preparing for whatever argument he thought I'd start. I took a deep breath. No backing down now. I walked in, grabbed a chair, and sat at the dining table. Nobody moved to greet me. Fine. I wasn't expecting warmth. I waited until my mother placed a coffee pot on the table and sat down, then finally spoke. I want to get straight to the point, I said, scanning their faces. I know why I wasn't invited to Christmas. Because Jessica told you I said something I never actually said. Jessica scoffed, still glued to her phone. You did say it. Maybe not in those exact words, but the meaning was the same. I held back a laugh. Oh, so now we're bending reality to fit your narrative. I turned to my parents. And you just believed her? No questions asked. Robert leaned forward, his expression tight. Jessica wouldn't lie about something like that. I shook my head. Really? Then explain why. The very next day, she called me asking for money. That landed. Silence filled the room. Jessica stopped scrolling. Ryan shifted uncomfortably. Linda looked genuinely confused. Robert's jaw tightened. Jessica recovered first. That has nothing to do with this, doesn't it? I leaned in. You get me kicked out of Christmas, then immediately asked for my help. How convenient. Linda spoke up, her voice uncertain. Jessica just needed some support. Family helps each other. I let out a short laugh. Really? When's the last time any of you helped me? The weight of that question hung in the air. No one had an answer. The silence stretched so long it became uncomfortable. Jessica shifted in her seat, avoiding eye contact. Robert looked away. Linda's hands trembled slightly as she adjusted the coffee cups. For the first time in a long time, they had no excuse. No quick comeback. No way to twist the truth in their favor. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't the one feeling small. I let the silence stretch until it became unbearable. Jessica's usual confidence faltered, her grip tightening around her phone. Ryan cleared his throat like he wanted to say something but thought better of it. Robert crossed his arms tighter, while Linda stared at her coffee cup, as if hoping it would save her from what was coming next. I leaned forward. Let's talk about fairness, shall we? Since we're so concerned with it. I let my gaze settle on each of them, taking my time. Jessica, remember when you needed a car? Who helped you buy it? When you wanted to go to college, but tuition was too much for mom and dad? Who covered the shortfall? And when I thought about going to grad school, what did I hear? We just don't have the money right now. Funny how that works. Jessica rolled her eyes. Oh, come on, it's just money. Why are you making such a big deal out of this? I let out a dry laugh. Just money? That's rich, coming from you. It was never about the money, Jess. It was about what it represented. You weren't just given help. You were invested in. Meanwhile, I was expected to figure things out on my own. Linda sighed, shaking her head. We did everything we could for you. We sacrificed. I turned to her, voice steady. Sacrificed? No, you calculated. You saw me as a safe bet, the responsible one, the one who'd always be fine, no matter what. You figured if you put your money on Jessica, I'd be there to pick up the slack when things went wrong. And guess what? You were right. Until now. Jessica threw her hands up. So what? You're cutting us off, acting like you're some kind of victim. I shook my head, keeping my voice calm, controlled. No, I'm setting boundaries. And for the first time, you all have to sit with the fact that I'm not your backup plan anymore. The silence after Ryan's words was deafening. Jessica's mouth opened and closed like she wanted to protest, but couldn't find the right argument. Linda, visibly shaken, clutched her coffee cup tighter, while Robert's face darkened, his jaw set like he was ready to fire back. I leaned in slightly, voice calm but firm. Here's how this is going to work. I'll pay for Jessica's tuition, every cent. But after that, we're done. No more phone calls. No more favors. No more last-minute emergencies where I'm expected to swoop in and fix everything. You get the money, and I walk away for good. Linda gasped, her eyes filling with tears. Ethan, you can't mean that. We're family. We don't turn our backs on each other. I let out a slow breath. That's rich, coming from you. When exactly has this family looked out for me? When have I been more than just a convenient solution to your problems? I shook my head. No, this isn't family. It's a transaction, and I'm just naming my price. Robert's face turned red. This is the most selfish thing I've ever heard. I smirked, feeling the weight of years of quiet resentment finally lift. You know what? Some people call it selfish. Others call it self-respect. Jessica shot up from her seat, her face twisted in frustration. So you're giving me an ultimatum? Take the money and lose you as a brother? That's ridiculous. I met her stare without flinching. No, Jess. What's ridiculous is how long I let you all treat me like a disposable asset. This is me drawing a line. You want the money? Fine. But this is the last time you'll ever ask me for anything. Ryan shifted beside her, rubbing the back of his neck. Maybe we should just... Jessica whipped her head toward him, her glare sharp enough to cut glass. Stay out of this, Ryan. Linda sobbed quietly into her hands, while Robert just looked away, shaking his head in frustration. I stood, adjusting my jacket, letting my eyes pass over them one last time. Well, what's it going to be? Money or a relationship? You decide. No one answered. Just stunned silence, the weight of my words sinking in. I turned on my heel and walked toward the door, my step steady, my chest lighter than it had felt in years. If they made their choice, I wouldn't be around to hear it. A week passed. Silence. No texts, no calls, nothing. It was the longest my phone had gone without some demand, some guilt trip, some obligation being shoved onto my shoulders. Then, finally, Linda called. I debated ignoring it, but curiosity got the best of me. When I answered, her voice was unsteady. She sounded exhausted. We decided to take the money. But that doesn't mean we're not family, right? I didn't hesitate. It does. That was your decision. A long pause stretched between us, thick with things she probably wanted to say, but knew wouldn't change anything. I didn't offer comfort. I didn't try to soften the blow. This was reality, and it was time they sat with it. I hung up and transferred the funds directly to Jessica's university. No personal check. No way for them to come back later asking for more. Just one last act of closure. Then, without another thought, I sent Jessica a single message. Don't contact me again. For the first time in my life, my phone was silent. No demands, no manipulation, no guilt. Just peace. The first few days felt strange. I kept expecting my phone to buzz, for another emergency to land in my lap. But nothing came. I woke up without checking my messages first thing. I left work without dreading a missed call. I had dinner without thinking about what crisis I'd be dragged into next. It was like detoxing from a drug I never realized I was addicted to. Months passed. I got promoted, traveled, went to a bar and actually enjoyed myself without worrying about what my family needed from me next. I made new friends. People who wanted to spend time with me because they liked me, not because they needed something. Then, one evening, my phone buzzed. A message from Jessica. I'm sorry for everything. I see it now. I get it. I read it. Let it sit there. But I never responded. Not out of anger. Not out of revenge. Because, for the first time in my life, I was truly free. I wasn't the family's ATM anymore. I wasn't their safety net. I wasn't their afterthought. I was just me. And honestly, that was better than I ever could have imagined. I stepped outside, breathing in the cool night air. Somewhere in the distance, I heard laughter from a group of friends, a sound that felt both unfamiliar and inviting. For the first time in years, I smiled, not because I had to, not because it was expected, but because, for the first time, my life belonged entirely to me.
Bye-bye.